Hey guys, it's Sam, and in January I took on a different challenge. Actually, in 2020, I'm taking on a different challenge, and if you didn't watch my resolutions video, I talked about it a little bit more there, but the sort of TLDR is, instead of yearly resolutions, I wanted to try monthly resolutions because I have failed a lot with yearly resolutions, and I want to try and be more successful. So I figured instead of an entire year, it would be just a month. And so for the month of January, I decided to do a 30-minute portrait drawing every single day. Now, to be clear, it wasn't every single day. I did do 31 portraits. However, a couple days I missed here and there, mostly due to various reasons. But the point I want to quickly emphasize about it is just when you're taking on something that's like a daily challenge or just this draw all the time kind of thing, or just a work all the time kind of thing, it doesn't have to be drawing related, it's important to take breaks. And I know, like, if you're really into doing something every single day, like, I don't think it's a bad thing to take a day off every now and again, give your body some rest, give your mind some rest, just sort of replenish everything that you need to replenish and then come back to it once you're ready. So there's a couple days that I skipped and then I just made them up some days or so later. So in the end, 31 portraits, 30 minutes each, and let's talk about it. So if you're new to my channel, then you probably don't know, but my sort of 30 minutes challenge is something that I've done for a long time now. I've just really always enjoyed time challenges. And for this month, this past month, I wanted to take on digital portraits specifically, just trying to understand the face a little bit more, try to get better colors, anatomy, just sort of like everything rolled into one. And of course, there's more efficient ways of studying than this. This in particular, I just wanted it to be quick sessions and just experiment, see what happens. And that's kind of what time challenges are. Obviously, with any sort of studying technique or any sort of challenge that you do, it's not, well, I mean, you can. Anything I say that you shouldn't or you can't or whatever, it's totally optional. But for improvement-wise, I do recommend trying a variety of things. So this 1 month was a set of things. And in that set of things, I did do a variety of different things. But I don't think that strict 30-minute studying for most people would be the only kind of studying that you would want to do. It's just a type of studying that you can do. So the footage you're seeing right now is from a Twitch live stream. Actually, all the footage from this was recorded from live Twitch streams. So if you'd like to check out my live streams, I'll put a link in the description. I don't have my sambeawesome username over there. It's been taken, #sad. But I am sambeart over there. So if you'd like to watch me draw stuff live, feel free to come and check that out. I started off doing this challenge kind of how I normally did this challenge, which is having a reference photo. I almost always have a reference photo, and then sort of copying it right next to it. And doing it right next to it just makes it easier for me. I can sort of quick check inaccuracies and stuff like that by just sort of moving my mouse across and sort of helping guide myself into doing the paintings. And I try to not color pick. There might be times where I check my work, or if I'm really stuck and you only have 30 minutes and it's not that big of a deal to color pick, and I'll get into that more later. So the first couple portraits were just that. I was trying to guess the color and guess the value and guess everything, and that's what I did. But after a while, I realized this is just getting a little bit more over my head than I expected, and I want to slow down. I want to take a step back, and I want to sort of make things a little bit easier on myself to try and figure more things out. So what I did after a couple days was switch to color picking. This is where I'm picking the color directly from the portrait reference and then using that as my painting. And there's a couple of things with that. First of all, it's not cheating. Second of all, it's used for other things that you might want to practice. So if you're color picking, then you're probably going to be paying attention more so to things like accuracy or proportions or just other things. Color takes up a big chunk, and so does value, and so does all these other things. So when you're doing these 30-minute portraits or you're doing any sort of study, oftentimes you're going to find that there's more than just one thing involved when you're doing a study. And if you make something simpler for yourself, then that leaves you more time and area to focus on those other things. So that's what I wanted to do. And so for a little while, I did some color picking, and that kind of opened the opportunity for me to actually be more free and experimenting with some other styles or techniques. And then after a while, I was like, okay, I would like to gradually bring myself back into what I was doing at the start, but let's not rush it. Let's make this a little bit more complicated, but still a little bit easier. So that's when I switched to black and white, which is this painting. So when doing color picking, I was able to spend more of my time trying to get accuracy, since accuracy was something that I found to be important with this. And if you've never done time studies before, I do recommend it. Number one. Number two is don't worry about the results. Like, none of these portraits are perfect. If you see them in isolation, you're gonna be like, oh, these are really cool portraits or whatever. Or you might not, I don't know. But if you put them next to the reference, then you're gonna start to notice mistakes. And I think when people are doing these sort of, because other people were joining in, which is super cool, but I understand the self-consciousness of like, this isn't good. And you feel kind of embarrassed about it or whatever. And I just want to state that these aren't about 100%, because you can't really put in 100%. You have a time limit. It's not possible to get to that finished state in that time limit. The point of these time challenges are color studies or value studies or gesture studies or proportion studies. There's a million different studies that you could do in a time challenge. And there's, you could do styles, you could do new tools, you can try out different brushes, different techniques. So don't feel like you gotta get this perfect thing. Number one, I think art should be more about fun than anything else. So just make sure you're enjoying the process. And you obviously don't have to share your results. I shared my results just because I wanted to. I wanted people to be able to follow along if they wanted to. And if you want to see all of them, I have all of them at the end of the video, but if you'd like to see the reference photos that I used, it's all over my Twitter. So I'll put my link to my Twitter in the description. You can check out all the reference photos I used. I picked them up off Pixabay. There were certainly some in here that I did struggle with and did feel like, oh my gosh, this looks so bad. But the point is that I'm learning, I'm trying something new, and even some days you're going to have days where you just don't feel very artsy. But since this was a daily challenge, you have that pressure, which is why I mentioned at the beginning, like, don't feel this pressure, which was why when I did actually take a day off, it felt really great. And then I was more able to come back to it the next day. So if you're not feeling an art day, don't worry about it. You can come back to it later. Because there is definitely a difference in days where I felt more into it and the results felt better versus the days where I felt really tired or just otherwise, bad mental state. So just wasn't that into it, and the results kind of felt like you feel that through the artwork. So again, so many factors, so many things. Like, this commentary is so all over the place. Anyway, point being, have fun with it. Don't worry about the results. And it's all about learning, having a good time. And anyway, going back to the black and white thing. So instead of color picking, I instead moved on to using values. So putting the reference photo in black and white and then just picking my own values and going from there. And when I switched up my technique, it did take like most of the portrait, if not all the way to the second portrait, to really kind of get used to the shakeup. And I think that, it's a good thing to kind of challenge yourself a little bit here and there and change things up a bit, to just try new things. And I think it helped a lot. So when I finally did go back to choosing my own colors, I felt a little bit more confident about my choices. I'm still definitely off in a lot of places, and I feel like other types of studies would help me there. But I think from when I started to when I got to the end, when I did start picking my own colors again and trying out different techniques and trying to push these portraits in a direction that I didn't think to go at the start, but now it's sort of leading me down this different path of what if I did portraits like this in the future, ones that when I do portrait art that aren't timed, then I could try this sort of style with my portraiture. So I think it was definitely a worthwhile study, or a worthwhile month of studies rather. And I got to experiment with different techniques I didn't think I would. And I don't know, I just tried things I didn't think I would. And I found styles that I liked that I didn't know that I could do that were like an option. And so if you're questioning about doing a time study, I do recommend it. Like I said, it's great for practice. It's great for just trying something. Like if you get a new tool, and you don't have to do it digitally. I've done it traditionally as well. So traditional artists out there, no excuses. I've done these in markers and watercolor. I've done time studies and like everything. So it's interesting. And if you do something over and over again as well, if you were to do the same reference photo or the same artwork again and again, you're going to find different things with it. And I think there's just a lot of room to really play around and try and understand a subject, whether it's a human or an animal or a tree. It could be whatever you're drawing in whatever style you're drawing. I know I'm doing realism here, but even towards the end, I realized I don't know if that's the direction I want to go. This is still something that I'm questioning and trying to figure out. There's a lot of thought process that goes behind this, a lot of things that you sort of realize as you go through these studies. It's like, when I started, I had an idea of what I wanted to do. I wanted to really replicate the photo. I really wanted to capture the likeness and get all this stuff perfectly accurate, and I was really concerned about that. But then towards the end of this challenge, I'm like, is that really what I want though? Like, maybe I want something else when I do portraits. And I'm still in that early thinking phase, so I can't really give an answer. There's not really a conclusion, but there is a start. And yeah, so there's the start to this new potential journey about what I could do, where I could take my portraiture. And I think that's interesting. And this wouldn't have happened had I not done this study. So I'm pretty excited about the future. Anyway, so nearing the end, let me just quick address what I'm going to be doing in February. February's challenge is going to be going through my backlog of tutorials. So if you'd like to follow along, February, find a bunch of your old tutorials you've been saving from whoever, it doesn't matter, and actually follow along with them. I know I'm guilty just as much as most artists out there who collect tutorials but don't actually follow along with them. So if you do have a folder or a file or a bunch of stuff saved of tutorials that you really loved, but you never actually did them, then this is the time. February is the time. So feel free to join me on that. And towards either the end of February / beginning of March, I'll have another video kind of updating you guys, hopefully, about how that progress is going. So yeah, here are all the portraits that I did, all 31 of them, and the last one was actually a self-portrait of mine, since y'all over on Twitch suggested I do a self-portrait for the last one, since there's an odd number of days, and yeah, anyway. So if you've done this sort of challenge before, let me know in the comments down below. Tell me how it went. If you'd like to try this challenge, definitely take it on. Let me know how that goes in the comments down below. And if you'd like to check out any of my notes, thoughts, or art advice on this whole January 30-minute portrait journey, I have all of them on my Patreon. I'll link it in the description down below. So if you'd like to know how I did this stuff, that's all in there. So thanks so much for watching. Bye!